Hello everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to do a drawing of a face and how to start off with it. So usually I actually like to do the eyes first. I don't know why, it's just kind of something I've always done, so that's kind of what you see me doing here. And then so I like to start off with the eye because I like to kind of start off with something right in the middle of the picture. That way I can kind of work my way outwards. Even after doing a sketch, I just like to have just kind of the center of the picture kind of grounded so that I can work outwards. And so now I'm just kind of blending out. And then so actually it's always best to work with lighter shades first and then kind of move on to darker shades. However, you would see in the beginning of the video that I actually used like a really dark, I think it was like a really dark brown pencil to kind of outline the eye and the eyeball and the eyebrow, because those are already so dark that you don't really need a light base, if that makes sense. And then it's just kind of nice to blend that out a little bit too into the lighter colors once you have the lighter down, like the lighter layer down, and then kind of layer on the darker colors. So that's what you see me doing here. And like I said, I'm just kind of working my way outwards from that beginning point. And then, so now I'm just kind of making the outlines of the nose. And I also like working with lighter colors first because, what was I going to say? So that I can kind of make sure that my proportions are correct when I'm kind of expanding towards the rest of the facial features. See, if I did like the next eye, for example, if I did it really dark, and then if I kind of found out a little bit later that that proportion was incorrect, the eye needed to be a little bit more up or down or right or left or whatever it might be, I had already put down that really dark color, so I can't really erase that. So like I said, just keep doing the lighter colors first, and then once those are secure, then you can move on to the darker colors. So that's what I'm doing to make this eyebrow here. And then, yep, just working on the nose and the forehead. I will say, I think it's kind of up to you. Just as you get more kind of experience with your techniques and like your kind of style, I guess, you don't have to start with the eye first. I just kind of always have. I'm not really sure how that started out, but you can start off with the nose first if you want to. You can start out with the mouth, you can start off with like the forehead, the right cheek, like whatever really you want to. It just kind of depends what makes you more comfortable in how you're going to execute all of the rest of the proportions in the drawing. So the kind of pencils I'm using here are mainly Caran d'Ache luminance pencils, and I love these because they are wax based, so they are like extremely rich and creamy, and they lay down color super nicely. I'm also using a little bit of Prismacolors here too, just a black and then a really dark brown. And Prismacolors are really good too. I love those as well, but I find that those break on me quite often. So I feel like maybe it's the wood in the pencil in the Caran d'Aches. They're just a little bit higher quality, and so they don't break nearly as easily. Like, they're a lot thicker of a pencil. So I'm laying down all these colors also with like a really light hand, and then just kind of layering it up. The only times where I use quite a lot of pressure in this particular drawing is when I am doing just like kind of a straight black surface. So like in the middle of the eyes, I use quite a bit of pressure, and in the eyebrows too, I believe. But like when I'm first laying down on a new blank spot, laying down color on a new blank spot, like a skin tone of some sort, I lay it down quite lightly. That way I can kind of layer up slowly but surely, basically, and it doesn't get really kind of muddy very fast, because most of the time I'm layering like more than 10 times, because it just takes that much to get that kind of depth that I'm looking for. So I'm just kind of blending around the eyes with some lighter shades just to make it look kind of more seamless. And then going in with kind of I think oh, I don't remember what the name of the pencil is, but it's a kind of orangey tan color. And then that's a really important one for this portrait. Um, it's just, it adds a lot of warmth to it, and it kind of blends into the beige shade very, very nicely. And then so I'm just starting with the lightest shade, which would have been a beige or like a really, really light flesh pink color, and then layering on maybe like a light burnt umber kind of color. And then I thought that the portrait was looking a little bit yellow, so that's when I added in some pink, like around the nose, and I'll be adding more too, I believe. And gray is also a very, very important color when doing face portraits, just because it makes everything look so much more natural and realistic. And I think it's just because of the shadowing that's in someone's face. It's not just straight flesh pink color or just straight yellow or something like that. It's just a mix of a huge variety of colors, including gray. So I find that when I'm doing like wrinkles in a face, like for example in this one, there's some pretty prominent ones on his forehead, it's really important to not go in with a very dark pencil. I sound like a broken record at this point, but it is so important to know because it could make someone look old quite fast. So you really have to be careful and just be very, very gentle with the pressure that you're putting on the pencil when doing wrinkles, just in general, but especially for this portrait because I am drawing here quite a young guy. He seems to be in his 20s maybe or 30s, and but he has wrinkles in his forehead, but it's really important to not make it look like he's, you know, older than he is. So you just put down a darker shade lightly for wrinkles, and just like tiny little strokes, and then you can kind of blend it out with lighter shades and just kind of keep layering it up that way until it kind of gets to the point that you want it to be. So in doing his lips here, it's really important to actually to keep on layering with some flesh tones first, like very first off, and then doing some pinks or whatever kind of natural mouth color it might be, because most of the time someone's their lips, they still have that kind of fleshy tone that's in their face. It's not just kind of like flat pink or whatever, unless they're wearing some kind of lipstick. But most of the time, it's just if you want it to look as realistic and kind of natural as possible, you want to make sure there's just that continuing of layers and making sure that it blends in with the rest of the face nicely. And you do that by putting down the natural tone down first. And it's even the same thing with his beard. So underneath the beard, it's his natural skin tone, of course. So you put that down first, and then you go in with tiny little dark brown strokes right on top. And then you can blend it out with grays, which is what I used in this, and some further beigey kind of colors and such.
Lost again, going back around, dreaming of a time when I get things right. Lost in the shadows of a million stars. Shouldn't they enlighten my near and far? Shouldn't they at all just tell me where you are? Send a prayer if I'm out of luck. Send a little love and I'll make it back. Send me a letter and a bottle of wine, telling me I will be fine. Baby, I'm stuck with a halfway heart. halfway hard.
So when drawing out his beard on that spot where the light is really hitting his face, so that spot left of his mouth where it's kind of white, there's some of his beard there. So even though there's light hitting it, you still want to make sure that it's obvious that he has little hairs on his face in that. So I'm going in with just kind of like a warm gray instead of a cooler gray, especially because his whole face in general is quite warm. It's a lot of warm tones. So if you do cool gray, it might stand out a little bit more than I would want. And then a technique that I love for doing face portraits to add a lot of texture is using an X-Acto knife. Just like tiny, tiny little strokes on his face. This really gives the illusion that his face is like popping out of the picture, or off the paper, I mean. But you can't do it, you have to be careful to not press down too hard because that can be really, really bad because it can kind of scratch up your paper, and if you do it too much then it might not look good at all and it could ruin your drawing altogether. So you just do it very, very softly and it does the trick if you just do it like that. And you also, if you choose to do that trick, you might want to make sure that you have enough pencil layers down so that it can kind of do the job that you want, so it can kind of pick it up when it's scratching it. And now I'm just kind of darkening up spots around the face and then doing the sides of the face, adding definition kind of around the mouth a little bit more, around the sides of the mouth, and then just kind of doing the outline for his hair that's kind of falling to his left side there. And then with a white gel pen, I'm kind of doing the highlights, the really, really strong highlights. That's in that bright spot to the right of his eye. And then that's really going to make that pop much, much more. And then along the sides of the nose, and you really only want to add white gel pen to the spots where it is absolutely brightest. And that's it for this one, guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Keep drawing.